All right, so hello everyone. Welcome to our session entitled Driving Employee Engagement Through Microsoft Teams an HR Perspective. In this part of the conference, we will be talking about the importance of employee engagement, how HR practitioners and people managers can drive this in the digital era we are in, and actionable programs and activities for employee engagement through Microsoft Teams. We are joined today by two lovely ladies. First, we have Trish Surema, international recruiter at Microsoft Asia Pacific, and we also have Nikkie Parnala, HR head of Tech One Philippines. All right. So, how are you doing today, ladies?
Doing
Good.
fantastic. Thanks for having us.
No, thank you. I'm glad to know that you are all doing well and good. And we're actually all excited for everything that you have prepared for us today. So, to get the session started, I will now hand over the floor to you.
Okay, so thank you, Clarice, for the introduction. Again, hello and welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here today. So, I'd like to begin by sharing a very interesting study that we conducted recently among local HR professionals. So, as you can see on the screen, the results highlighted the seven biggest HR pain points today amidst COVID. And an area that I would like to highlight in today's talk is the top challenge, which is the decrease in productivity. When we say productivity, we are all aware that it translates to a common goal of keeping our employees high in morale, sustaining engagement, which boils down to the overall employee engagement and productivity despite the current setup, right? So the biggest questions facing HR right now would be how we can best connect with our employees. How can our employees work productively given that they are from different location, given that they are using different devices, and not to mention the circumstances that they are currently in, right? So this afternoon we will be sharing with you the top 10 smart ways to keep our employees engaged in their jobs. Over to you, Trish.
Thanks for that awesome introduction. So, everybody, in a fully digital world, the face of employee engagement slightly changes, and we in HR would need to make sure that we adapt to the unique needs of our people. And to reach them, we use a combination of applications, but mostly Microsoft Teams. You may be well familiar with this app already, but as a quick refresher, Microsoft Teams is an amazing hub for you to collaborate with others. So, of course, you can have meetings or even call people. Raj, if you click next, you can also work across different teams for specific projects, targets, or events, as you can see here, by having everything in one central place for discussion and file sharing. And lastly, you can enhance your team's experience by putting in workflows for automation. So the nice thing about this is it's very easy to kind of put into your programs, and we'll talk a little bit about that more in depth later. With that said, let's go to the next slide. We've curated 10 tips for engaging employees through technology, not only from our experience in Microsoft and Tech One, but also best practices from other organizations as well. Let's go to the first one. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Yeah, so before you jump in head first into the world of digital employee engagement, you first need to ask, hey, is my organization equipped with the resources and behaviors to go digital? So let's always remember that our employees come from different backgrounds and may be managing different personal situations. In some countries, people are asked to homeschool their kids, or there might be some employees taking care of their parents or family members during the pandemic. So we need to make sure that they have everything they need to have a good, conducive working environment as a good baseline. So the first thing I'd encourage you to consider is reviewing your HR policies. Asking the questions of, hey, are we providing the flexibility to take on multiple roles of being a manager, a colleague, a teammate, and more importantly, being a parent, a child, a caretaker, and everything else in between, because we all have multiple roles in our lives. So consider introducing policies around mental health leaves or flexible working arrangements so that they have the time to take care of important commitments outside of work. So whenever I speak with colleagues about HR programs, we always lead with empathy and kindness because listening to what your employees need, even if their situation is different from yours, when you put yourself in their shoes, it really goes a long way when creating meaningful and good work from home HR policies. The next thing that I wanted to kind of cover here is really empowering your employees through equipment. So I'm not sure about you, but have you ever experienced working from home and realizing that it's too dark, there's not enough light, your back hurts because you don't have a proper table and chair, or your laptop screen is too small and you're just really struggling to just get work done because it's not your usual work environment. So I'm sure that this is not unique, and people all around the world experience this as well because we made our home a home, not a workplace. So consider reallocating your operations budget to provide work from home subsidies. Some examples that I've seen is that, people are given allowances to get better internet connection, or create a procurement program where employees can purchase office equipment like monitors, chairs, and tables to help them create a nice workspace at home. And I know that not all companies have like big budgets, right? So if you're short on budgets, maybe try to be creative and organize ways for your office equipment to be delivered to your homes, to the homes of the employees for them to borrow. So several companies have been championing this practice already, and they've reported amazing feedback because not only does the productivity go up, but employees also feel that they're well taken care of. So, Nikki, I think you have some practices in Tech One that you'd like to share about this as well.
Yeah, but definitely I agree with you, Trish. We really need to consider these factors to help our employees be comfortable while working from home so as to engage them. But just to add about this BYOD, or bring your own device policy, which some HR practitioners can also consider, this kind of benefit allows flexibility for the employees to bring their own laptop or to use their own laptop and get the laptop of their choice and use it for official purposes. And of course, in return, a certain amount of allowance per month will be given to the eligible employee. But of course, it's a case-to-case basis. HR would have to be really creative when crafting their own policy related to this. Like in our case, we also offer loan under this policy for those who would like to purchase their own new laptop for them to use at work. And lastly, I think I would like to highlight, Trish, would be the importance of having or conducting a work from home or telework suitability survey. So, what's the importance of this? This survey would allow us, or would provide opportunity for HR and for the management team to check the readiness of your employees to transition to full work from home. So this will help us identify if they are ready, if they are not ready, what are the things that they need to be ready, or in what ways we can fully support them. So along the survey, this may involve identification of the distractions. Do they have adequate spaces at home? Do they have the right tools? The devices that they can use, internet connection, or are they using mobile data connection? And the bandwidth and speed are also important, one of the things that we should consider. But I also understand, or we also understand, that it may be true that we may not have all the answers to their concerns, right? But the thing here is conducting a survey will help employees feel that they are valued, that we would like to consider their condition. It's like a domino effect. So if this survey is done right, the work from home setup really increases the productivity of the employee. So it's really important to conduct this survey to get the pulse of our employees.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So the last tip here is to really build and encourage behaviors to go digital. So when going digital, there's some etiquette practices that we should be doing to ensure that we build an inclusive workspace. So things like, moving from email to chat, or chat to call, or call to a video call, because it will make for better face-to-face communication. And if you're not comfortable with your background, you can use like any background that you want, honestly. And this is a background from the Microsoft office in Vancouver, one of my favorite offices. So, with all of that, there are also other factors that we have to consider, and we have to make sure that we understand that there are some uncontrollable factors when working from home. Things like dogs barking in the background, your family members just going about their day. And I think Microsoft Teams will be eventually rolling out an update where you can suppress background noise so that you can minimize distractions for both yourself and the people who you are speaking with. So I think that is, oh, and one last thing that I want to update, Microsoft also has captions on. So if you're working with a group wherein there is a diverse group of people from different countries whose first language isn't English, you can also turn on those captions so that it's easier for everybody to understand. So yeah, I think that's all it for the first tip. Nikki, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Trish. And then tip number 2 would be get your leadership involved in tune and in view. With so much uncertainties these days, leaders of our company or of every company plays a very unique role in maintaining a connection among their employees. They are the ones employees look up to for guidance, what's happening inside the organization or even outside the organization, what do they have to do, what do they have to expect to act and how to react. So the bottom line here is that the change must come from the top, and it's also important in parallel to make the management team understand the value of staying connected. And it can be done in several ways. Like in our case, we are having town hall meetings, we are having midweek motivational talks being led by our chief encouragement officer or our CEO. And we have team announcements for middle managers down to the individual contributors as well. The question here is, why are we doing this? And how does it help in keeping employees engaged? Of course, first, we have to build an honest and transparent culture, right? So employees will feel connected if they are involved, if they are informed, if they know how they can contribute on their own ways. And if there's a transparent culture, definitely we can establish a strong communication routine that employees can refer to with so much assurance and reliability. So through these programs, the leaders of the organization can basically share information with empathy, optimism, and compassion, because employees will feel connected because it's the top management who reaches out to them, not only to listen, but to understand where they are coming from, and of course, to provide a solution for those problems. And through these programs as well, we can provide specific steps or basic advices, especially on these trying times. Through these programs, we provide advices on how employees can manage stress, how they can become mentally and emotionally resilient, how they can be effective while working from home, and so on. And the most important part of every initiative would be the listening tools. So the Q&A during leader talks, the town halls, or basically the post-event survey through SurveyMonkey, Poly, or whatever app that you use in your organization. This is the most important part. Why? Because we should let our employee or our people ask questions, right? We should open the floor for suggestions all the time, because it pays to collect feedback, and then of course make sure that we respond to each one of it as much as we could and as fast as we could. It's as simple as letting them know that they can provide their feedback if they are happy, if what they feel about the talk, the event, or do they feel that there's a better way to address a specific concern, and the list goes on.
Cool. So let's go to the next step. which is really to create and encourage a learn it all culture. So the next thing that I really want to focus a little bit on is career growth and development. Not because you're staying at home, that doesn't mean that you can't learn anything new and just do your job every day. So if you foster a learning culture in your organization by making sure that you have an environment where saying, hey, I don't know this, can you please help me, is not only accepted but also celebrated. This creates a better like learning opportunity because employees feel safe that they can ask these questions. Beyond that, we really encourage a community who shares new knowledge as well. So in our team, whenever we find an interesting article or online training courses in LinkedIn or Udemy, we share it with each other because you never know who else might need it. And lastly, if we click on this slide a little bit, you can also find a way to make learning fun and gamify it. So here you could see a third-party app called Insights, wherein, incentives, wherein you can assign points on certain activities that you want to encourage your employees to do, like trainings or mentoring someone or sharing something new. So when they do those activities, they earn points and you can incentivize them when they reach a certain number of points. So for instance, the top scorer for this month will be recognized in the next town hall meeting or get a cup of coffee. So that's just some ideas that you can use for learning. And Nikki, I think you in Tech One does a little bit of e-mentoring as well, right?
Yeah, and thank you for that, for sharing the incentives app, Trish. I love the part also encourage people to make mistakes and ask questions. Well, about e-mentoring, when we say mentoring, it's all about relationships, right? It's all about human to human connection. And as HR, working remotely should not hinder us or should not halt the mentoring relationship with our employees. Why? Why does it help to keep mentoring consistent even virtually? Because it provides comfort and support to our employees, be it emotional or psychological. And it all boils down to the overall well-being of the employees. But take note as well that when we say mentoring, it doesn't necessarily mean that it just revolves around work, right? It has to be very flexible. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be formal. So we should look beyond it on the personal side. Depends on your mentee as well. And the best practice would be simple as having a call at least once a week, checking in regularly with them, whether we are connecting in real life or virtually. We should remember that we should engage genuinely and intentionally so as to facilitate productive mentoring with our employees. And another thing that I love about e-mentoring as well is its flexibility. Because, of course, it's online or virtual, you can allow flexible meeting times, right? And for the mentor, he or she can invite or allow more people to participate as well.
Awesome. So let's go to the next one. We talked about culture and setting the stage. Now let's look at the actual tools that we have in a roster. Microsoft Teams has a huge amount of features, and to go through that is a whole other session in itself. But let me share you my favorites. So this is built on the Office 365 platform, right? So that's your Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, to just name a few. So since this is all in one ecosystem and all in the cloud, you can work seamlessly across different devices. Also, you can collaborate with teammates by working on the same documents at the same time within the Teams app itself. So this makes things more efficient. And again, this is a whole other topic, but feel free to reach out to us if you want to learn anything specific about O365. Let's go to the next one. It's Microsoft Find Time and Bookings. So these two programs basically help you work with people outside of your organization, with your customers and your partners, and even like if you have peers, like how Nikki and I collaborated for this particular presentation. So this makes it easier for us to find schedules for each other. One of my next favorites is MS Planner, right? Let's go to the next one. So this is my favorite because I am part of several project teams with different members in each project. team. So we use this to make sure that we have a good overview of our overall to-do list with everybody in the team. So as you can see here, you can add in categories of the tasks that you need to accomplish and assign it to certain people. Every time that you make changes, you'll get notified. And for instance, a deadline is coming very soon. You will get notified as well. As a project manager, every time somebody says, okay, like I've finished this, you will get a notification, so that it gives you a good sense of what is going on in your overall project while not micromanaging your team as well. So personally, like I mentioned, we've been using this a lot because we have been driving several recruitment campaigns, and I've been working with people across 5 different countries. And we really use this as our source of truth when we want to get things done. The next one is meeting notes and recordings. So when you have a meeting and join the call, sometimes typically you would assign somebody to put in the minutes of the meeting, and then that person will email it to everybody who has joined the meeting. And sometimes those minutes of the meeting, they get lost, right? So here, the meeting notes can already be recorded within Microsoft Teams itself. And then let's say you use the same meeting room every time, so you can just update it as you go. So it's easy to kind of keep you honest, to make sure that, hey, like this is what we talked about last week and this is what we'll be talking about this week. Another thing is recording. So since we are in such a flexible time now, sometimes we have folks who are parents who needs to homeschool other people, their children, I mean. So sometimes they can't commit to certain times. So you can record the meetings and then they can just watch it later in their own free time. The last one is whiteboard. So when you need to brainstorm with your team, and we do this a lot, we typically go into a room and then write down our ideas in the whiteboard. And you know, that's typically nice, and you can do that in this app. But I think this app is better because you can actually add photos. And after your team, you don't need to write in "do not erase this" to another team, so that you know, you can come back to it in another time. Whatever you put in whiteboard, it will always be there for you and your team. So yeah, that's it for me. Let's go to the next tip. Right. So the next tip is really around the third-party apps. So I think Microsoft Teams is like buying and customizing a car. You could be perfectly happy with the base model, but if you want it to look and function based on your preferences, you can also add custom mods to your car. So Microsoft Teams does that too through the integrated third-party apps. There's a ton of them available, and here are some of my favorites for employee engagement. First of all, we have Polly. You can see there on the screen. Polly gives you a really easy way to just check in and get feedback from your employees. You can just put up a question, set a survey deadline, and people cast their votes. Once the survey is closed, you'll get a summary of all of the results that you will get within Microsoft Teams too. The next one is Kahoot. Right. So this is really popular for icebreakers and trivia quiz nights. So you create your quiz online, people join in through their mobile phones, and you basically start a game. It's that easy. So I'll let Nikki walk you through the next 2 apps.
Okay, thank you, Trish. That's a perfect analogy. So just to give a brief background about Rike and MyHCM. So Rike, it's used for project and task management purposes. Maybe it's almost similar with MS Planner, but it helps in managing multiple projects. As you can see on the screen, you can see the action items, the deliverables, and your to-dos for the next few days. But of course, it depends on you on what tool you're going to do or you're going to choose. And then another one is the MyHCM. MyHCM is a digital HR software. It's been available for mobile and web, but the good thing is recently MyHCM HR already runs in Microsoft Teams. And it allows the employees to do several regular HR tasks, such as they can view their schedule for that day. They can easily use it for log in and log out. They can view their timesheet. They can always file for leave, view their pay slip, and then raise some various HR service requests. So in a nutshell, it helps these integrated apps will help employees to be more productive because they don't have to leave Microsoft Teams, right? They don't have to jump between tools or between two or three different tools. They can all do it via one platform.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love how it's a one-stop shop that everybody can just
Yeah,
get in. They don't need to open a website or whatnot.
correct.
Anyway, let's go to the next one. So, it's really hard to put a division between home and work when it's in the same place. So, data has actually shown that people typically work longer hours and take less break times since the pandemic. So, this is where MyAnalytics comes in. MyAnalytics provides insight into the two key factors of personal productivity. Basically, how people spend their time and who they spend their time with. So instead of telling you, I want to show you. Let's go to the next one. Here, you'd be able to see how much of your day is spent on collaborating with others and how much time you're sitting down to focus on your tasks. So you see the 60% and 40% earlier. And then the MyAnalytics is smart enough to automate booking your focus times in your calendars. You don't need to do it one by one. It will automatically do that for you so that you have those times blocked for you to just sit down and focus on what you need to do without meeting other people. And it's connected with Microsoft Teams so that when you're on your focused hour, your status in Microsoft Teams would actually say focusing. So if you build a culture that says, hey, like I'm on focusing right now, you can leave me a message, but don't expect me to answer. So let's go to the next one. Another feature of MyAnalytics is on well-being. So how many times in a week do you actually stop working after hours? As you can see, at the 4-week trend below, it shows us that this person has been going online beyond 6 p.m. at least 4 times out of 5 working days. And then if you look at the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you can also see that what work she actually does after 6 p.m. So it shows that 62% of it is spent on emails. So maybe this tells us that, hey, you're probably having too many meetings during the day that you don't have enough time to actually sit down and do your work. So that gives you some insight with how you're working and also more or less adjust when you need to adjust. The last bit is on collaboration. So since MyAnalytics is part of the Office 365 platform, every time you email, chat, call, or go on meetings, it gets recorded. And you get this amazing and realistic view of your own personal productivity over the past 4 weeks. There's also some meeting habits here. If you look at the tables below, only 56% of the meeting that this person had joined had high attendance. So does this mean that she's sending invites to the right people, or can she assess who she sends her invites to? This also shows us that, hey, it's good. 77% of her meetings, she wasn't emailing or chatting with other people. She was actually focusing on the meetings. So does this tell us that maybe she can use the remaining 23% for her not to join those meetings so that she can focus her time to do other things so that she doesn't have to do like after office stuff basically. And my favorite here is on the right hand corner. You'd also see some tips on how to send meeting invites or how to politely say no if you're part of a meeting and you're not quite sure if you should join or you shouldn't join. So yeah, that is it for MyAnalytics. Let's go to the next one.
Okay. So tip number 7, focus on the why. Let's just start out by saying that the struggle is real, right? So as HR, it's really one of our major responsibilities to motivate our employees for them to perform at the highest level possible. And one way to engage them is first, we have to understand why they need this engagement event, why is it important, what's in it for them. And in parallel as well, it's important to help them understand as well the value of our initiatives or of our programs. We have to focus on the why and help them understand the reason behind it. I will be sharing with you the best practices that we do. So we have virtual coffee talk, we have virtual parties, and we also focus on health and wellness programs. So in virtual coffee talk, employees are randomly paired with each other, and they were encouraged, or they are encouraged to have a 15-minute video coffee chats. For what reason? Because we would like them to connect with others beyond work or beyond their circle. Thus, it will strengthen their relationship with other people as well. And for the virtual parties, as you can see, it's important now more than ever to maintain that sense of connection and camaraderie for employees, so we can prevent them from feeling isolated, from being lonely. And as HR, we really have to find ways to virtually connect. We have to be really creative to pull some ideas that we can do with the use of technology. And we can still initiate, I believe we can still initiate the activities that we used to do physically in the office. Like, for example, we can conduct virtual team building. We can conduct virtual celebration of employee milestones, their birthdays, their work anniversaries. Recently, we conducted virtual Mother's Day and the like. And for the health and wellness programs of the employees, there are lots of ways to do this. But simple programs will do, such as online community workouts, or by simply sharing with them a list of workout programs that they can easily follow or do at home. We can also promote healthy lifestyle and conduct virtual wellness seminars on topics like, especially during these times, it's very important to share wellness topics regarding how to avoid burnout, how to have a good sleep, how we can drive competitions as well, or healthy competitions like virtual Biggest Loser challenge that I think we will do in the near future. And the bottom line here would be, of course, the pandemic has changed even the kind of support our employees need, right? So these best practices, these are only few of many things HR can do for the well-being of their employees. Because I personally believe that when employees are being properly supported mentally and emotionally, of course, their well-being increases as well, right? So that's when our objective follows. They become more productive and engaged.
Awesome. Let's go to the next one. So I'm sure that some of the HR practitioners in this call have experienced a moment wherein they did their very best to organize an event and then nobody shows up. So my tip to boost participation is to try to find champions and ambassadors who can help encourage your employees to join your programs and enjoy the benefits that you've really worked hard to prepare for them. For example, let's say you created a leave program. Encourage those people who have taken it and share their experiences with their team. Or, for instance, you have fun activities planned and you have a lot of folks who don't know about it yet. So find ambassadors from each team to encourage them to join and participate. So, for instance, in a quiz night, that's typically a group thing. Find ambassadors and encourage them to build teams, and try to engage the people who doesn't really typically join these events. So one last and very simple tip is to just really have your ambassadors encourage each other through the team's chat box. So if you can see in the screen right there, just a personal example, my team was going through a journey of everybody getting a training badge. And we have someone in the team tracking our progress week on week, like, hey, we have 50% attainment, 80%, 90%. And our ambassadors get involved by cheering everybody on and recognizing silent achievers. So for instance, I don't see example Nikki really posting too much, but I saw that she finished her training. I'll just say like, hey, Nikki, I saw that you got your badge. Congratulations. You know, those simple encouragements really invite other people to join in on the conversation as well. And if you're like me and you're not too good with words, use GIFs, because GIFs say a thousand words that typically I wouldn't be able to express. So let's go to the last two tips with Nikki.
Yeah, so perfect, Trish. It's like an employee advocacy. I personally love the training badge. Okay, so tip number 9, recognize employees. See to it that we don't just set some goals. We have to recognize our employees as well for them to be engaged. So from improved performance to increased employee engagement, there are so many benefits to engaging consistent personalized recognition. And you can do it in private, but of course, there is also an advantage if you make it in public, which of course would increase visibility of those accomplishments, no matter how small it is. And down to our objective, recognizing our employees encourages discretionary effort. In our case, we do social feed recognition. So we use Yammer, we use Microsoft Teams as well for recognizing our employees. So talking about Yammer, it's a social networking service used for private communications within organizations. But like in our case, you can also make use of it to praise and recognize your employees real time. And it can be very simple as that. And yeah, anything else that you would like to add, Trish, about it?
Yeah, so if we could click on this slide as well, one of the amazing things that I like about Yammer is that when our SLTs get involved. So, for instance, somebody in the team just like finished something amazing, right? So if an SLT kind of gets like praises other people and recognizes people or even shares their own stories through Yammer, it makes everybody like feel like a bit more of a community and really boosts the motivation of people. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Trish. And then let's proceed with the tip number 10, the last but not the least. So don't forget to have fun. We have to accept the reality as HR that it's not all about work, right? We have to build a community and social interaction among our employees. And in order for us to do that, definitely fun is a part of it. So we have to loosen the tie, make your initiatives more casual. Like for example, you can conduct random Tuesdays, like what we do. You can conduct random icebreakers at the middle of the day or any time that you would like, just to break the ice. And you can also conduct trivia nights or Kahoot night. In our case, we do Kahoot Friday and to cap off the week. And it's something that employees look forward to because you can really be creative as the host, or you can get someone like Trish mentioned as your advocate. So it's every Friday in our case. You can do it by group or with the entire organization. It depends on the need of your employees. But the objective here is, yes, work hard, but don't forget to laugh and have fun. Be creative in engaging your employees. Don't be afraid to tweak a bit. Allow them to bring their own snacks or their own drinks while playing. Because at the end of the day, what matters is you create a support system for your employees and you create that community. You build that community. And that's it for our top 10 tips to engage your employees. We hope you pick a thing or two from this topic. Trish, over to you.
Yeah, no, we're very well said. Nothing else to add, but would love to kind of see if there's any questions.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much, Nikki and Trish, for that very insightful talk. And I am sure that our audience have their own key takeaways from you, and definitely they are excited to use these best practices in their own organization. So, yeah, now we are opening the lines for some questions from our audience. Actually, we do have one here. Well, we have the recap actually of the talk or of the session on the screen. But one question that we have here, it says, what best practices can be done to ensure workforce productivity while working remotely? Right. I know you have actually mentioned some of them earlier in the session, but would you like to give emphasis on like some key best practices that you think are most effective relating to workforce productivity? Yeah.
Okay, I can take that first. So I think when you think about workforce productivity, you have to make sure that there's the right environment for your employees to be able to be actually productive. So for instance, if you're using like a really slow laptop or they have really slow internet connection, it's very hard to be productive, right? It's a productivity drain basically.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, if they have the right equipment, Number two, if they have the right readiness, that would help in boosting the productivity. And the last one is just really building the culture of flexibility, because even if we're all working remotely, and technically we have more time because we don't have the travel time to take into consideration, but because of
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic, we also have a lot more responsibilities for our families as well. So we have to take that into consideration, and giving people that space would actually boost productivity rather than burning people out.
You're right. That is I will totally agree with you on that, Trish. How about you, Nikki? Would you like to give some ideas on it as well?
Yeah, just to add, there are many best practices that that we find successful. But for me personally, what I find really a success in our organization would be the involvement of the leadership. Like what we have mentioned earlier, the change or the change must come from the top. And
Mm-hmm.
um, it's something different when employees feel that it's the top management who reaches out to them, right? So simple events like the town halls or the midweek motivational talk from the CEO, it's something that employee really appreciates because during those events, it's not just about work, it's not just about updates on what they do. It's all about motivation, right?
Right.
So in our case, our CEO shares something about how to be efficient when it comes to working from home as well, and then how they can be mentally and emotionally resilient in this trying time. So something like that, Trish.
Mm-hmm. Well, very well said, Nikki and Trish. We actually have another question related to that previous question that we have. So it says here, how do you ensure that employees are able to keep their overall wellness while, of course, keeping productivity and efficiency a top priority?
Okay, so I think I can answer that, Trish.
Go
All right.
ahead.
Yeah, it's important to listen to your employees by taking their pulse on how they feel, how do they find things like in professional or in personal level. So you have to frequently check in with them through chat, voice call, but best is the video call. You
Mm-hmm.
have to empower them to strike some balance, to practice work-life balance as well, and encourage them to something that we find useful based on Trish presentation would be the MyAnalytics. It's a best resource to get to know or to be able to assess your work habits, right? You get an overview of your work habits, and then from there you can make changes and you can ask questions as well to your superior or to your managers on how they can help you to improve your overall wellness while being productive.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that is true. Well, how about you, Trish? Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, sure. So I think, when we think about wellness, obviously we need to make sure that we protect their personal time as well.
Mm.
But when we talk about productivity and efficiency, aside from, getting to know and having connections with leaders, as what Nikki mentioned earlier, I think it's also important for the employees to know the direction
Mm-mm.
of where the company is going, because right now there's a lot of uncertainty. Businesses change all the time, and we need to make sure that the employees don't have any doubts in their minds with what's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen to them. And if there's a happy employee with direction, then naturally it would boost those three aspects.
Mm-hmm. Well, I totally agree with you, right? And so, we just have room for one more question. So I think this is related to what you mentioned earlier about gamifying or making work fun as well, right?
Okay.
So, someone asked here from JTG. The person said, "What is your take on e-sports or gaming? Maybe doing online gaming as part of an employee engagement, I suppose. So, what's your take on that?"
Yeah, we actually have a gaming community here in Microsoft Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
pre-COVID, what it looked like was we kind of got together, brought in our consoles, and then just played video games in one of the meeting rooms as a community. So it was really fun. It was like a combination of gamers and non-gamers as well.
For sure.
Esports, honestly, I can't speak about that because I've never tried that before. But in terms of gaming and bringing it online, there's a lot of online games now. Personally, we haven't moved that to like moved our like on our gaming sessions online yet.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should, but yeah, thanks for that
Correct.
question.
All right. Well, there's really a lot of games that can be done, right? You mentioned earlier Kahoot and other applications, and I think
Yeah,
personally, more than the serious side of doing things and making sure that things are done, having these kinds of games really helps us. Me speaking as an employee, right? It makes fun and it makes work a lot easier, and it gives
Yeah.
fun a different level, right?
I
And
agree.
so yeah, thank you so much for all of those insights that you have shared. And that's it actually from us from the session. And again, thank you so much, Nikki and Trish, for sharing your expertise. And of course, thank you everyone for joining us today. Again, thank you so much, and you guys have a great afternoon.